Getting the most out of reading the Bible, simply put, revolves around how you read it. It may be an odd statement to make, but there is in fact a right way to read the Bible. I'm not saying that God can't speak through the Bible unless you follow some specific formula, but rather, if read incorrectly, what God is saying can easily be confused, misunderstood, or overlooked altogether. The first step in the right direction of properly reading the Bible is knowing what it is. Now again, God works with us where we're at, right? And most of us start reading the Bible without really knowing what it is. We just know that it's something that we should do, so we start doing it. But if a person really wants to get into like the meat and potatoes of who God is and what his purpose is and what his plan is for us and how any of it applies to us, they need to move from a place of a childlike ignorance to the realm of mature understanding, right? A mature understanding of the biblical world as it truly was and truly is. Only then can we really begin to plunge the depths of what the Bible really is, which is God's self-revelation to us. The first thing that you should really know is that the Bible, it's not just a book. Now, I'm not talking about the supernatural, transcendent aspects of the Bible as God's written word, and I believe that. But I'm more so talking about that the Bible isn't a book as we would think of a book today. It's really a collection of books or a collection of ancient documents. The Bible contains 66 individual pieces of literature written in various styles and with different purposes. These pieces are written by over 40 different authors and span a time frame of over 1,500 years. Many of these works contain various subplots and stories which seek to address certain specific issues of the people and of the times. The writings also cover a range of literary genres from history and poetry to pastoral teachings and prophecy. It's important to note, however, that the Bible's primary intent is theological. This means that it's not a book of science, it's not a book of history, and it's not a book of biographies. Although the Bible contains science, history, and biographies, the Bible should always be first and foremost considered a book about God and the development of his covenant with mankind. I think the worst thing that a person can do with the Bible is treat it sort of like a Christian magic 8-ball, where we just ask it a question and fling it open and read the first verse we see, and if we don't get an answer we want, we just shake it up and try again. The Bible is a loaded weapon, okay? And handling it this way is dangerous. It's dangerous to yourself, it's dangerous to those around you. If each book of the Bible is written to a specific audience and for a specific reason, then it's important for us as the reader to know who it is written to and why. If we don't do this, then we could interpret the text as saying something that it never intended to say. This actually happens all the time. Many times it's unintentional and innocent, but it's still dangerous. Because even if it's unintentional, even if it's innocent, it could still lead you away from knowing God rather than closer. Other times, it's absolutely intentional because a person is trying to make the text fit their message instead of rightly making their message fit the text, right? This can still do damage, but at least in that sense, typically the person's intent is to bring you closer to God. You still shouldn't do this though. You should always try and make our message fit the text. Our message isn't inspired, the text is inspired. Then there are people who intentionally twist the text with the primary goal in mind to lead people off of its intended meaning and to lead people away from knowing God. So as you can see, there are great dangers involved with the improper use of the Bible. The best way to avoid being confused or led astray is to begin the process of learning for ourselves how to read and how to interpret the scriptures. Now, I'm not saying we don't need preachers and we don't need pastors and Bible teachers, but every good pastor, every good preacher, every good teacher, okay, they desperately want their congregation to pick up on this stuff. They want you to know how to read and how to interpret the Bible. So let's go over some of the basics. As I said, we want to know to the best of our ability who's writing, who they're writing to, and why they are writing. It's only after answering these questions that we should ask, how does this apply to me? It's infinitely important to remember that the Bible, it's not written to you and I. God may use it to speak to us, but he does so by using the specific situations and the people of the individual texts in the Bible as a whole. Along these lines, it's always important to be aware of what's going on within the text. We want to know who's speaking, who are they speaking to, why are they saying what they're saying. And again, only after these questions are answered should we ask, how does this apply to me? I would suggest that it's a good idea to start at the beginning. Not necessarily the beginning of the Bible per se, but whichever book you choose to read, you want to start at the beginning of it. Most people like to say that you should start with the book of John or maybe the book of Matthew, and these are great places to start. I like Luke because Luke wrote a two-part work, which is the Gospel of Luke and the book of Acts, and these are meant to go together. So when you read these books together, you get Jesus, what he did, and then you get the church and how it grew. But the point is, whether you start with Joshua, Jeremiah, Romans, or James, or wherever you start in the beginning and read it to the end. Many of the good Bibles out there have a section in the beginning that gives a little background. It gives a little background on the book, right? By background, I mean who wrote it, who it's to, why it's written, and what it says. Perhaps the most important thing is that the Bible needs to be allowed to speak for itself, okay? This means we need to check our assumptions and we need to check our preconceived notions and ideas. We all have them, all right? The text shouldn't be subjugated to our opinions, but rather our opinions should be subject to what the text is saying. We have to make an active discipline of keeping the original intention of the author a priority. It's very easy for any of us at any time to see what we want to see in the text, which is also why we really want to avoid trying to decipher any type of hidden meaning or mystical symbolism out of the text. When people do this, they can twist the text around and make them say whatever they want them to say. Even ourselves, okay? We can do this to ourselves. We want to avoid that. Again, just let the text speak for themselves. So let's recap. The Bible is a collection of 66 books. It's written by over 40 authors, and it covers a period of over 1,500 years. It's a progressive revelation of first, God, and then second, his covenant to mankind. When we read, we should ask ourselves three primary questions. Who is speaking? Who are they speaking to? And why are they saying the things they're saying? We also want to be aware of the genre of the writing and always be aware of the author's intended purpose for writing. We want to read the books from start to finish and make a habit of reading any background information given in our Bibles. To put it simply, we want to do our best to read as if we were part of the original intended audience. When we do this, we enable the text to speak to us as it was intended, without incorporating any of our 21st century baggage into the interpretations. Also, when we do this, it leaves us open for God to really speak clearly to us. And when we do this, we get the most of our time spent in the Word. Well, I really hope you've enjoyed watching, and I also hope that you were able to take something away from this lesson. Keep in mind that there's a lot more that could be said on this subject. I never intended to have this be an all-inclusive and exhaustive study on reading and interpreting the Bible, but rather I just wanted to offer a few things that everybody should know as they dig deeper into God's Word. Thanks for watching.